everybody, welcome to the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Tailford, joined by Kirsten Rea.
Hello.
And Josh Brown.
Hi.
JB, Josh Brown, and Kirsten Rea. We have all sorts of Xbox things coming this next week. Apparently, it's going to be the debut of next-gen hardware and software. We're going to see some games. Microsoft tweeted something out just saying that, you guys want to see some games. We want to show you those games. So we're just going to dive into what they'll hopefully be showing off. Because they're going to need it to be a big old conference. They need a lot of people talking about whatever the hell they're going to be showing. So I assume, or we collectively assume, that it won't just be the most expected stuff. And it won't just be a big old Halo showcase. So we've got 3 games each that we hope will be there. Some things have been talked about before, but their release dates kind of got thrown out of whack just based on everything around the world right now. And I think we should open with one of the balmiest things that Mr. JP's thrown in the pot, which is Silent Hill.
Yeah, I mean, look, right, Scott, we've done a lot, and Kirsten, to be fair, we have all been in Silent Hill videos over the past few weeks because the rumours are non-stop. There is at least one. There's at least one Silent game happening, Silent Hill game happening. There is at least one of these things in production. And the rumours keep going backwards and forwards on whether or not it's going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive or whether it's going to be an Xbox Series X exclusive. Because for the longest time, there was the assumption that Sony might even buy Konami outright and buy all their IP and then be able to make Metal Gear and Silent Hill and stuff. But then that seemed to get dashed. And then there was the idea that Microsoft were going to get Silent Hill because they want to target the Japanese market this time around because the Xbox One didn't sell very well in that market with Japanese players. So the rumors are, and Phil Spencer himself has mentioned that that's a target demographic that they're trying to cater to this time around and win over. So to me, it would be a huge win and a huge swipe against Sony if they did manage to get a Silent Hill game, be it a Silent Hills game or a Silent Hill reboot on the Xbox Series X. That would be huge. That would be a bombshell. That's my mic drop moment. It's yes, there are other rumors that support it, quote unquote. Do I think it'll happen? Maybe not, but it would be big.
A man's got a dream. A man's got to think big. Kirsten, does this strike you as ridiculous as it does to me?
I don't know. I'm on your team here, Josh. I really am. I want Silent Hill as much as the next person because I'm a huge fan of it. But I don't know. It's been talked about for so long and then put off and taken away and very rudely taken away from us. I don't know. I just feel like some of it might be just fans getting excited and maybe starting rumors, and then other people. I don't know. I really don't know. I just want a Silent Hill game. Like, I'm excited for it. If there really is a Silent Hill game, then I am all there for it. I'm super excited. I don't care who releases it and what it's released on. I will have it and I will play it. But I just hope that it does exist because it's just there's nothing worse than having all these rumors about a game that has been longed for such a long time to just never actually appear would be.
I'm going to throw a curveball in this because Hideo Kojima talked about doing a horror game. He's already working on his next game. Apparently it's a horror game. And everyone immediately went, oh, well, he must be working on Silent Hills. What if he signed a deal with Microsoft to do a exclusive game? Because Kojima Productions is independent. What if he's doing a new horror game for Microsoft, for the Xbox Series X, that just takes all that Silent Hillsian goodness, but isn't called Silent Hill? That will be my addendum to you, JB.
That would be huge, man. Like, I've got so many curveballs for this, so many different permutations of how it might go, but that would be massive. And I don't think it's entirely out of the question. Like you said, although Kojima and Kojima Productions has been historically linked with Sony, they are independent, like you said. Even though their last game was financed by Sony, they weren't the only studio out there or publisher out there trying to finance Hideo Kojima's next game. He got a bunch of offers and eventually went with the one that he thought would be the most respectful to his vision. There's nothing to say that Microsoft might not be the ones this time around who are the most respectful to his vision. You know what I mean? They might come out, they have more or less endless pockets, can give him a load of money, say, look, we support whatever you want to do. Give us something Silent Hills related that we don't have to title Silent Hill so we don't have to pay Konami anything. And give us a killer horror game. I can see that happening. Or
tell you what as well.
I can see... Go on.
I was going to say Death Stranding is now on PC, Microsoft owned PC. So, you know,
what? This is
connect the dots,
further
mate.
down the rabbit hole.
I'm just saying, you know.
Madness for you two. What if Sony had Silent Hills and managed to retain Kojima, but then the Silent Hill reboot game or remake game that's also been rumored came to Xbox Series X, and then you managed to have one Silent Hill game on one console for next gen and another on the other console for next gen, and then they both have exclusive Silent Hill games, but they're not really, because they're different experiences.
Look, one of these things has to happen, and I want that, but I like the idea of Mr. Kojima coming out with all the spotlights on him again and just walking up to the front of the stage and just saying, "I'm back," and then going doing some random thing with Norman Reedus again. Look, we've gotten very carried away with these things, so I'm going to say 3 words to you, and that are those are Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, I know that sounds insane. I know no one potentially cares about Microsoft Flight Simulator, but my game, because if you look at that game, it's insane. Like, no one, like, you hear about it and it just sounds ridiculous, but if you look at the gameplay, if they want something to just throw up and be like, look, this is running on Xbox Series X hardware, this is what you can buy later in the year, it's Microsoft Flight Simulator. Now, they've been doing all sorts of different development updates month by month, and obviously Flight Simulator is just they're just not a go-to thing for like a mass audience, but I think it's enough to just show some gameplay, because as far as I know, the reason that game looks so lifelike is because it's a mix of photogrammetry and images that they took from satellites, and I'm sure they work with Google to make it work as well. And it literally just looks lifelike. Like Kirsten, you were saying that your granddad's like flown planes before, and literally it looks just like real life flight.
Exactly.
And I think if they need something to just show off what the console can do, it's a quick sort of entry. But one of my 3 is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Do you guys want to go for a little bit of a fly and a bit of a cheeky biplane?
I think so. Like, yeah, that would be incredible. Especially, I think what would be a good idea to, like you said, sort of show off what the Xbox can do. I mean, I don't know. Are they still doing like Game Pass and stuff with the new Xbox X? Why not just chuck that in as like one of the first new Game Pass games? Just so, you know, you think, well, I'm not spending money on it, but you can still jump in and you can just be mind blown by how incredible the console is, and just kind of get you into the mindset of just how, like, what this console can do. Because you know, there's probably people out there that will play flight simulators. There's people that play, like, you know, these different farming simulators and all that sort of stuff. Might not be our cup of tea, but from a like development standpoint, it looks incredible. So to kind of have that as like a little free, you know, game that you can just jump into would I think that would be quite a good idea, because it does. It's beautiful. It looks beautiful.
The Game Pass is a hell of a shout. Like you said, like if you were just offered that up, you would give it a shot. I'm sure there's like some rumors about how large the file size is, because they've literally, as far as I know, they've pretty much mapped the world on it. Which I don't know, a couple 100 gigs worth of data, but maybe there's a way for it to happen. Kirsten, one of your first games is Cyberpunk.
Yes, Cyberpunk 2077 finally has a release date for September 17th, 2020 this year. So like you were saying, Scott, you can buy these games kind of in advance almost, and then it gets kind of transferred over to the Xbox X, which is a really, really brilliant idea. But I just feel like I mean, how long ago was it when the first Cyberpunk trailer came out? I feel like it was years ago that we saw this. It's been rumored. Well, there was a very quick sort of like conceptual teaser thing back in like 2013, where they showed like a girl with blade arms being executed by like a police officer, and it was like, oh, this is the next game from CDPR. But it's taken this long for it to eventually come out. Yes, so I think that's one of my main points, is that the reason I'm so excited for this is because we have been waiting several years for this game. So to finally have an actual definitive release date, as well as the fact that it will be on a brand new console as well, is incredibly exciting, because just the whole aesthetic of the game is just something completely different, and I can't wait to jump into that world. It looks beautiful. It's something completely different to what like anything that I've ever played, really. I mean, the amount of stuff that they've done, like I can't think what the name of it is, and I should know, but we talked about it before we started recording, about that idea that if you buy it on regular Xbox Xbox One now, it's forwards compatible with the Series X. They just give you the next gen version. But in terms of like how much we've seen of the game as well, as far as I know, the last deep dive thing was that 45-minute gameplay demo from last year, and that was initially behind closed doors, then they released it. Josh, is there something else? Am I missing something?
I think there was there something at Microsoft's E3 last year when we got the big Keanu reveal? Was that?
Oh god, that was after. Time is a flat circle. Time is an absolute flat circle. Yeah. There was the whole Keanu thing. We saw more there. So I guess there is a bit of an association with Microsoft, and those are those have been the people getting out there saying, like, trying to associate Cyberpunk with Xbox logos and stuff. So maybe it makes more sense that way as well.
That's why I think we will see. I think for me, that's one of the rumored games that are going to be there that more or less is nailed on. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned there, Cyberpunk turned up on Microsoft's stage at E3 last year. They are trying their best to associate this game with their brand through the marketing, if not, any kind of exclusivity. And I think it makes sense because Microsoft has lacked games associated with the Xbox brand over the past few years that kind of hit that deep RPG kind of market, if that makes sense. They haven't had a Fable in a long time. They've been mostly focusing on kind of like shooters and action games and stuff like that. So to get something with the fan backing as CDPR and Cyberpunk, I think that would be a huge win and a very savvy move from old Phil Spencer to be able to go, look, this isn't our exclusive game, but it plays best on the Xbox. It looks best, it plays best, so buy it on our console.
There's also
and you get it for free, like Kirsten said, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like also like because it is coming out so soon, like at this stage, they've locked code. I mean, the game's being certified in Australia, and as far as I know, like that is the final version. If anything, well, I don't even think there'll be bug testing anymore. If it's gone to certification, I think that is the final version. So it's like, okay, that's the final version of Cyberpunk. You might as well get it out there and just see what it looks like on the Series X. So that's one thing. Josh, your next game down is Lord of the Rings Gollum.
Yes, a game that I'm getting increasingly more excited about the more I hear from it. Because this was one of the first. Right, me and Kirsten had a thing about this in the PS5 video we did about all the confirmed games. Because this game was announced ages ago, and just kind of like a text update. It was one of the first next-gen video games we knew about, and for the longest time, it was more or less a joke, a punchline. You know what I mean? You hear the name, The Lord of the Rings Gollum, and you don't think promising things. You think, why? How?
Even if it was called Smeagol, I probably would think it's more refined. But
exactly. It sounds like a mad project, but the more the developers have talked about it, the more promising it seems, because it feels like it's going to be like this deep RPG thing where you control Gollum, who isn't based on Andy Serkis's Gollum. It's based on like the books, and it's set for the books. Oh, is it? No, it's set between. It's set somewhere. It's set somewhere in the Lord of the Rings universe.
Lots of riddles.
That's the gripping insight I've got there. But yeah, it's not Andy Serkis's Gollum. It's like a new take on the character, so you get to have more say over what he does and kind of the route he goes on. And I think that's quite cool because it's so out there and weird that it might just work. You wouldn't make the Lord of the Rings Gollum if you weren't committed to that idea, because it's so... seems like so kind of like anti to what a Lord of the Rings game is all about. You'd expect a bunch of other characters to get their solo games before you got to Gollum. So I do feel like if you're doing it, you need to have the passion behind it, you need to have the ideas, and hopefully we will finally see it in the flesh proper, and it will convince all the naysayers out there that it could be good. The thing that I
really want from it is I want to start the game as Smeagol. I want it to be this full-on like 30, 40-hour thing where you really see his descent into Gollum. Yeah. But I also kind of want like some sort of skill tree where like you're not really like you can unlock the ability to rip a finger off by the end. Like I want him, start with sword fighting and then do something afterwards. I just don't know, because if you start as full on loincloth Gollum, then I don't know where you go from there. I think you need to you need to start as human and go from there, or Hobbit and go from there.
What I want to see happen is that you do start more of a you start more like Smeagol. You start more well put together. You're not this Gollum thing, creature thing. But then as you go through the game and you're making these decisions in the narrative, whether directly or indirectly, you're becoming more corrupted by, the One Ring. And if we see the deterioration of the character transforming as the game goes on into this more animalistic creature, I think that could be really cool if that transformation is influenced by your actions, whether you're trying to help people and then you're getting more corrupted, or you're trying to be bad and then you're giving into those urges. I think that could be cool, as long as there's a mini game where I can slap Samwise Gamgee around and take the nick out of him.
See, I'll take that.
That's all I want.
Yeah. If we're talking about like Gollum-y based mini games, I want fishing. I want him to be able to slap the hell out of the water and catch a fish, and then bash the fish on a rock. Otherwise, what the hell are we even doing?
What's the point?
Yeah, and it just, there's a fair whack of stuff you could do. The next one down, Josh, you mentioned Fable before. Now, I had this down. I've got Fable 4 down as one of mine, just because that was originally leaked by Kotaku back in 2018. Just sort of nonchalantly, they were covering something else, and Jason Schreier just dropped the sentence in the middle of a report just saying, like, by the way, Fable 4 is being developed next door. And everyone kind of went, all right, fine. And so, yeah, we've kind of know it's been coming for a while. It's in development by Playground Games, which are the Forza Horizon people. But they're based down in Sheffield, so it kind of feels like they would still be able to get the like English sort of sensibility that makes Fable. Like you need a very specific sense of humor to make that work. And so, yeah, I mean, they've shown very little of it. There was a big leak, again, times a flat circle. I don't know when. I'm going to say last year. That sort of detailed different things in regards to time being thrown out of whack and you being put down on a series of different islands. And there was lots of customization and ways to explore different environment types and stuff. But I guess it's just that general question of like, are you still psyched for a new Fable, or do you think at this stage they should just do something else?
Yes. No, I am so excited for a new Fable. The last Fable I got excited about turned out to be a bloody Kinect game. So, yes. So to actually have a proper Fable game that isn't some crappy, shoddy Kinect monstrosity would be fantastic, because I absolutely love those games. I've played all of them. I think the only one I've never completed was the very first one, just because I never got around to it as a kid to play it. And then when I went back to try and play it, it was just so old that I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But they're just brilliant. They're, like you said, the humor that's there, the story that's there. Each game has kind of changed subtle little things with how, with the kind of good and evil way. I think, was it the second one where you kind of turned more into like an angel or like a demon? Was that the second one?
You kind of always been able to get like horns and be like more angelic, like based on like your actions and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 was, I guess, I don't know, they've sort of combat wise, for me, the thing that always put me off, because I dropped off on Fable 3, but I adore Fable 1 and 2, especially 2. Yes. 3, the thing that put me off was all the weird menu stuff, where it was like the pause menu was like a room that you beamed into, and it was all just kind of weird. I love John Cleese, but it was just like a weird, like slow way of making it work, and I kind of just dropped off. But yeah, I mean, those games have so much personality, and like you said, they're all the like even the angel demon stuff in terms of how you look in that world, like going to like a mate's house and realizing that they'd just been a massive bit of poop, and they had like 2 huge horns because they've been like kicking everyone's doors in. It's a good time. Josh, are you psyched for more Fable?
Yes, you know what, I am, because as much as I enjoyed the original Fable games, except 3, I've never loved them. Like, you know what I mean? I've loved the world, I've loved the humor, but the combat and sometimes even the story, I've never been quite able to get into it. And for as much as I never wanted, Lionhead Studios to shut down or anything, I do think it was, at the time, in need of kind of some fresh blood and a fresh take on the concept. And I think that Playground games, even though they've not done anything like an action-driven RPG before, because they're mostly known for the Forza Horizon games, I do think like maybe that's what the franchise needs. Maybe it needs some passionate young rapscallions to come in and kind of kick it up the bum a bit and do something different and kind of give us a proper next-gen Fable. I don't know whether that's going to be something the core fan base wants, because I'm not, like I said, I've never loved Fable, but I think it's fundamentally probably what it needs, because that's such a huge brand for Microsoft, and it's like you said, Kirsten, it's been sitting out for such a long time. All we've had of those is that cancelled game that didn't eventually come out, and then like the Kinect game and stuff like that. So it has been done dirty for a while, and I want this to be, considering how long it's been in development and how long it's been rumored for, I want this to be a proper, committed, next-gen Fable experience that blows our socks off and makes us want to get an Xbox.
The thing that is terrifying, I've just quickly Googled there, Fable 3 came out in 2010. So there'll be teenagers whose only experience of Fable was that VR thing. Or maybe seeing a trailer for Fable Legends. Like, if you would be 3 years old, born in 2007, like around about sort of Fable 1, 2, and then just growing up in the 2010s being like, oh, why does dad care about Fable? Well, it was good, all right? It was a good time. I liked it. Good. Son. But so I mean, I don't know. I think if they came back strong enough, maybe they just ditch the fact that it's a numbered thing and just kind of just call it Fable again. I mean, even the first one had something like it was like always like Fable : something Journey. When they remastered it, it had like a little subtitle. So maybe there's a way to make it work. What was my next thing down? I think it was someone from Kirsten. We should do one of yours. You should do Dying Light 2.
Dying Light 2. Okie dokie. Hang on a second. My notes have disappeared.
Hardcore dog-kicking zombies.
Yes. Well, I mean, I really enjoyed the first Dying Light. It was a brilliant concept with the whole parkour zombie aspect, survival thing. It was just kind of this huge mismatch of everything. But for some reason it worked. It had a decent storyline. It wasn't the best, but it had a decent storyline. Plus the fact that you could play it online with your friends as well, which was always really fun. But yeah, it did seem a little bit short, and it's been a good long time since they since the first one was released. I can't bloody remember when the first one was released.
It was like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, I was gonna say it feels like a good few years ago. So it's been a good long time since we've had another edition for Dying Light 2. But yes, so it kind of feels like it's come out of the blue. It's not. The only information we've got out of it is that it's to be confirmed. So God knows when that's going to be released, if ever. If it's going to be one of those ones that just continuously gets pushed back with the whole situation we got here. But yeah, it looks brilliant. I'm just up for more zombie kicking and parkour, to be honest, because the zombies in that I really enjoyed how unique they were and how they kind of. You always have special zombies in games like this, don't you? Where you have like bloaters and ones that explode and like ones that are faster than the others. And it just made it terrifying because during the day you were fine. You could run around. If you wanted to venture in somewhere, it felt a little bit safer. But it did also go into like nighttime modes, which was terrifying because sometimes you could only do certain missions in the nighttime. And when you're not playing with somebody else, it is terrifying. So I thought it was just the perfect combination of everything. As a zombie fan, I really enjoyed that. I remember having plenty of time of me and my friends playing that and panicking our way through these missions because someone might get lost or pinned down and then I couldn't see them and I didn't have a flashlight. I was just like, I'm sorry, I can't help you. I'm just going to leave you there.
The amount of like this, because I remember I've actually barely played Dying Light. I know it's like it's a big deal. Like Josh, did you play it?
Yeah, I loved it. Like it came out of nowhere, and I was well on board. Did you?
Everyone's like talked about it. I know everyone's talked about it as this like massive deal. And I played the demo. My thing with it, and this applies to Mirror's Edge as well, is that I can't stand first person platforming. It always feels a bit off. And I know that Dying Light did it better than most of the others. Mirror's Edge is obviously like solid and has a reputation and stuff too. But I don't know. If I was looking forward to something in Dying Light 2, it's to make first person platforming. I don't know, just more. I don't know if it's just a personal, completely subjective thing, but because I can't see where I'm placing my character, it always just puts me off. I always feel like I'm just vaguely like rubbing up against part of the environment and hoping for the best. And I thought that actually Titanfall 2 did it really well in terms of the wall running and like just the general sense of locomotion. And like if you could get a Dying Light that played as fast and responsive as something like Titanfall 2, then that would get me in. But yeah, in terms of like the day-night stuff, they had some really cool ideas. And I just remember seeing a clip where someone ran in and drop kicked like 4 zombies at once, and I was like, that's pretty cool. There's always that. Josh, your last one is Starfield, which potentially would save Bethesda from their weird hole of blackness that they're in at the minute.
Yes, well, at risking changing this entire video to be another kicking of Bethesda, because I don't think we need that. They have not had the greatest generation, I'd say. I love Fallout 4. A lot of people didn't love Fallout 4.
I liked
Fallout
it.
76. Yeah, it's a good game.
I liked it.
Scott, it's a good game. Hits Dying Light. Hits
we won't talk about Preston, but everything else was fine.
Fallout 3.5, carry on.
Anyway, obviously, Starfield is their next big thing, isn't it? It's not based on Fallout. It's not based on the Elder Scrolls. They're finally doing something new in the big AAA RPG space for the first time in over a decade now. And this thing has been rumored for a long time. It was announced 2 years ago, and yet we've seen nothing from it. You would assume that with over 5 years now between Fallout 4 and where we're currently at, we would have expected to have at least seen a gameplay trailer or something else, but they've been so quiet on it that I think this year has to be the year. And I know we say that about a lot of things, but I do think this year has to be the year. And all the rumors that have been coming out over the past few months seem to point towards them at least having a trailer ready for an event before E3. And now considering the only event before E3 that we know is definitely going ahead is this Microsoft thing, I've just had to connect the dots like that. It's not much to go on, but I can see it happening rather than Bethesda holding their own press conference again, because they've already ruled out that they had something planned for E3, but now it's not going ahead. They can't be asked, essentially. They're not going to do it. They're going to just disperse the games that they did have over different conferences. So if Microsoft got something as big as Starfield, and let's remember that Bethesda as a company has always kind of aligned more with them than Sony, because their games on Sony's consoles have, especially in the PS3 era, were markedly worse. They were far buggier. They were far more disappointing. And over this generation, Bethesda and Microsoft have kind of been partnered together in a marketing department standpoint. So to see that continue with Starfield would make a lot of sense. And I do think now is the time for them to unveil it.
Yeah, I would absolutely love Bethesda to just calm the F down, step back a bit, and just focus on play to their strengths. Because for me, like, it's the total opposite. I think this last generation, like for me, but Bethesda haven't nailed anything since Skyrim, and that was in 2011. And like I liked Fallout 4, but I just thought it wasn't enough. But for their sort of shift, they've kind of made this shift into like being a bigger publisher. You know, they put out all these different games like Dishonored and Evil Within and Rage 2, and I just thought they acted as a pretty terrible publisher. One of the only games that survived that was Doom. In terms of like sales wise, where nearly everything else they barely did any marketing. They held back on review copies until it was too late. You know, and they try to do these big press conferences, but they just didn't have anything to show. So I'm so up for them just taking a step back, going, okay, maybe we rushed these things too much, and focusing on something like Starfield to win people around again, because it is their first new IP in like 20 years or whatever. As far as I know, they've never done a sci-fi thing, and so it would just be cool to see what the hell that game is. The thing that skewers it a bit for me is that they're still using the same engine as before. Like, it's still going to be the same Fallout 4 engine, but maybe there's a way to make that work. I mean, lots of the modders on the fan side have made it look incredible, so maybe there's a way. But yeah, I guess what was my last one? Oh, I had Elden Ring for my last one, which I think is like the last thing in terms of one of the last sort of games that could just sort of slip out in terms of a last minute thing. Because From Software initially have been developing it since 2017. They showed the trailer for it a couple of years ago. Target listed it for a 2020 release. But I guess it's just like, do you think it'll just come out of nowhere in terms of a brand new From Software game when Sekiro was 2 years ago? I think.
Yeah. So
it wasn't just last year,
right.
was it?
No, was it? Time is a flat circle.
I think Sekiro. I'm going to go with. I love that we're just three people who did have time to sort of Google this, but we didn't. I don't know when Sekiro came out, so I'm going to go. It was last year. Yeah. All the torment of that game. Anyway, and with that being just 1 year away, it's like, do they drop Elden Ring straight away? I think they would at least release it, release the trailer for it, because this is their big game that is Hidetaka Miyazaki pairing with George R.R. Martin, and I think just getting that game out there in terms of a trailer, how the story is, and things like that. There was a huge leak that's doing the rounds at the minute, but it isn't like verified or anything, saying that you're visiting various different kingdoms and stealing limbs from people to power up, and then moving forward.
From Software.
I know, right? That's what made me think it was a real, that leak is real. But yeah, each kingdom is like a mini Dark Souls or a mini Bloodborne. You advance all the way through, you defeat a boss, and you steal a limb from someone, and then you slowly become more powerful on your way to this final place. And there's also this middle hub area called the Field, where you get mounts and you can go on horses and bears and different animals and stuff. So all of that stuff sounds great. But yeah, to pass it back over to you guys, are you ready for more brutal FromSoft stuff, or would you rather they calmed down a bit?
I'm gagging for it, man. I can't wait for another From Software game. Like, I'm having withdrawals. It's only been a year, but it feels much longer. And I think Elden Ring, with the names attached to it, like George R.R. Martin, like you said, and the scope of it, the fact that it's been in development so long, I want to see more. And I do think, again, it would be smart if it's out on, it's not going to be an exclusive for Xbox, but if Microsoft managed to align themselves with it, it's a win in the same way that Sony got Bloodborne a few years ago, you know what I mean? It's like this respected developer that the hardcore fans really, really love. And if you can associate one of their new games with your console, it's a big win for a specific kind of audience. So yeah, I'm excited for it. I think it will be a savvy move. And I do think it makes sense for them to drop it at the end of the year. Sometimes we see From Software games in like the spring, but obviously it's spring now and they haven't released an update in a long time. And with everything going on, it might make more sense to push it towards the end of the year and have it as a cross-generational release, if it is cross-generational.
Well, right now,
for all we know.
Yeah. Well, right now the initial release date was meant to be June, and then the date that Target listed it as is just December 31st, which is obviously a placeholder. But the fact that they've put it up for 2020, like, very much heavily implies that it's coming at some point this year. Factor in the cross, the different generational leap, and it hasn't been developed for Series X or PS5, assumedly, so it has to come out, the rest of this year. So I think you might as well show it off at a big Microsoft conference and get the fan vote for From Software. Kirsten, your last game is Watch Dogs Legion, a game I completely forgot existed until it.
Yes, I think a lot of people have. Another one that we saw the trailer for a good long while ago and then just kind of vanished off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I think when people saw the trailer, they just assumed that it was like, oh, this is going to be coming out relatively soon. And then there were some cancellations, and then they pushed it back. And then obviously we got ourselves into a bit of a pandemic. Cheeky bit of pandemic. So yes, as of yet, I still don't think there is an actual release date, but they've put down it is going to be this year. It is 2020. When that will be, I do not know. But I do feel a little bit better knowing that hopefully it should be this year, because that's another one like Cyberpunk. I feel like I've been waiting a long time for. And then I'm pretty sure me and Josh spoke about this before with Watch Dogs Legion. It's all of a sudden just kind of come back into existence. People are talking about it again. But yes, it's obviously taking place in post-Brexit Britain, which I just think is a brilliant concept. I'm totally there for any games that are sort of jumping on the whole Brexit or Britain bandwagon at the moment, because it's a lot more relatable, and kind of seeing that fallout of what could have been is just brilliant. And also, I want to play as a ninja granny. Is that too much to ask?
Just gonna say, not enough games let you play as ninja pensioners.
I remember seeing the trailer and I thought, this looks really good. And then as soon as I saw that old lady, I was like, yes, this is the game that I need in my life. And that is because I think you can, there's, from what I saw, there was like certain characters. I think they released a bit of gameplay where certain characters might be getting like killed off very early on. As long as she's not one of them, because I don't know if it's, I swear there was something about how, there's these main characters, but there is basically a possibility that they could be killed off or taken away or something like that. That's like, there's no definitive, they will definitely live. There's a chance with everyone could be kind of killed off. So that makes me even more invested to have this old lady just make it through this whole game. Because if she dies at any point in that game, I'm starting again. I'm not having that happen.
I want my Ethel to make it through from the beginning to end. But I think, if you're going to show off like next gen tech, and like Watch Dogs Legion has been in development for next gen consoles for a while, that system that you're talking about is apparently they've come up with some way to make it so that every single NPC is playable, and it just dynamically creates a voice bank for them based on like pitch and tempo and tone and stuff. And like, based on the way their character model is kind of No Man's Sky-ish, but I guess applied to humans and talking and having dialogue. And like you said, any character can die, and then anyone else can then pick it up. As far as I know, that's what they're aiming for, which just sounds incredibly ambitious. But if they could do a more fleshed out gameplay demo, they kind of showed bits of it off, but maybe show something on Series X that just proves the hardware can keep up with all that stuff. And show some sort of story that modulates like every 2 seconds in terms of this person dies, now it's this person, and show off different parts of the world that they've built. Josh, where do you come down on Watch Dogs Legion? Are you excited for more?
I'm a bit conflicted, man, because I really enjoyed Watch Dogs 2, and I thought the original Watch Dogs was a promising game that took a lot of flack at the time, perhaps rightfully so, for downgrades and not living up to expectations. But I feel like this has been the big next-gen franchise that's kind of failed a little bit. It hasn't lived up to that potential, and I want to see it really hit it out the park. I want Legion to be as good as it can be, and if that means it needs to be, delayed to be a cross-gen release to capitalize on all of its mad ambitions, that's totally fine, because I want them to get it properly right this time. I thought they got it right with 2 for the most part, but that didn't really have the audience for it. And I think, like you said, all of the stuff we're talking about here, whether it's the controlling the NPCs, playing as the ninja granny, and having the permadeath system for those NPCs, there are some cool original concepts there. And I just don't want it to go down the same route that Ghost Recon did, in my opinion, where that just became Ubisoft by the numbers, which, it had no real heart to it in a way that for what it's worth, the Assassin's Creed Valhalla trailer looks like it has a lot of heart to it. And I want to see something kind of on that scale with that level of ambition behind it, that level of confidence, and for it to not just be yet another Ubisoft game. If they can convince me that it's not just another Ubisoft game, I will be totally on board.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, Watch Dogs is kind of the epitome of like this big, because their tagline back then was the next generation starts here. And then Watch Dogs obviously didn't do very well. Assassin's Creed Unity's face fell off. And it was kind of like, okay, we need to try and figure out what we're going to do. Excuse me. And I thought Watch Dogs 2 totally brought that back. And it is still a great like open world action game. They just got overshadowed because the IP is just sort of like not looked on very fondly. I would prefer they did something with Splinter Cell, but because they keep refusing to acknowledge it exists, I will take stealth in any form I could get it. So I guess there's that. But yeah, we'll find out next week what the hell they're going to do to show off the new Xbox, and hopefully one of these 9 games will be revealed. For now, though, this has been the WhatCulture Gaming Podcast. I've been your host, Scott Tilford, joined by Kirsten Rea.
Thank you.
And Josh Brown.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.